it was a while ago now because obviously Colin Kaepernick has been out of the league, but for years. But I remember I read an article or something about ESPN, and this is like right after Kaepernick had his first big season, where I think he took him to the World Series. He took him to the Super Bowl where the lights went out, which I always think will be the perfect place to start any documentary about the final collapse of America with the fucking lights going out at the Super Bowl. But Ron Jaworski, who's a former quarterback and was a talking head. I don't know if he still is. Was a talking head on ESPN. Uh, was essentially assigned the opinion to have on the shows that he was going to go on and talk that Colin Kaepernick might be the greatest quarterback of all time when he's done with his career because of how much potential he had and how good his first season was. And in this article, there's just these depictions of Jaworski just sort of walking around, going into the break room, drinking coffee, and just sort of talking to himself and talking himself into it, being like, I can sell this. I could sell this. Yes, absolutely. And I feel like these guys all are that now. Like they all,
Yeah.
yeah, there's such a thin gruel. There's like a few things that are flashpoints at any given moment. There are only a couple like opinions you can have on them that will hit the right quadrants, as we discussed, and then you just are assigned an opinion about them that you are then forced to figure out a way to justify and to justify your job and to keep the people reading this shit on the hook.
Yeah, if you're in media now, like in the past, like 10 years or so, your job is like a cross between a dunk tank clown and a health tonic salesman. You're completely full of shit and you don't really like believe anything that you're saying. But the highest place you can get at your profession, like the most paid, the most seen, the most recognized, is being someone whose articles routinely get them yelled at. I cannot believe for a second that this guy actually believes this. Maybe he does. I don't know. But it seems like it was 2 days before a deadline and either consciously or subconsciously thought like, okay, I need something that like people will quote tweet. And he came up with this sort of warmed over 2017 horse shit.
Well, I mean, Matt, this speaks to your point about how all bases are covered because I'm certain because of this reaction to the Northmen, like if there weren't white supremacists that were excited to see this movie before, they certainly are now.
Absolutely.
And the evidence of that, I don't know if you guys saw this on Twitter, but it was a gang of fellas who all decided to go do some movie mindset together, go to the movies with your friends. That's one of the most mindset things you can do. But they chose to go to the movies and sneak in their own food with them. Milk duds, maybe a little beer, popcorn, nachos. No, it was raw ground beef. It was raw meat, or like that they were eating out of a big bowl together at the screening of The Northman, and Zig Heiling the screen together. And just as far as historical accuracy goes, I mean, could we just have some? Could you be eating some pickled fish, please? Because I'm sorry, the Norse people did not eat raw beef.
Yeah.
That was not a staple of their diet. But I mean, it just goes to show, like I said, this is what these people really believe in. Is eating raw beef in a movie you think is going to frighten people or just like play into, just rile people up. And like I said, like I'm certain it is because of like articles like this in the Guardian, and that people need to believe, and then on the other side, people who need to believe that they are part of like that they are like heirs to the Nordic races of people, and like the Viking conquest of Europe by eating raw beef in a movie theater.
Yeah, the dance between like article heads and like the online edgy dudes is it's like if when a parent puts his hands over a baby's eyes and the baby thinks he disappears, if the parent really thought they were disappeared during that time. I also want to point out that the real thing that Vikings did that these guys got right, because yeah, no, they didn't eat raw beef or like ground beef, certainly not. They did love movies produced by like 11 Jewish guys. The real Vikings would go to royal courts all over Europe and steal court Jews and have them compose epics, the basis of which, or several of which were the basis for things like Mad About You and Frasier.
Yeah.
There's a Viking word that roughly translates to story Jew, and it's a tradition that's passed down to white people today.
Yeah, a King Canute of Denmark had a long sort of like a written correspondence with it was like a scribe psychologist where you write in your queries about your life to him and then he responds, and that was the basis of Frasier. And he also had a sort of an effeminate brother who got involved in this. This was one of the most ancient myths of the Western Caucasian peoples.
I love traditions continuing.
Matt, did you like the Northman?
Oh yeah, it was awesome. I mean, the main thing that the reason it's so funny to talk about its politics in any kind of like practical sense is that the main thing that I got from it is that those people in that time were essentially aliens.
Yeah,
They lived in an
yeah,
entirely different psychic world that is absolutely inaccessible to any of us, that
and
we cannot go back to.
yeah, and that's what
And that
like I
all you
said. Like,
and that fetishizing it is just this pathetic play act because you can't get in there. You cannot believe that Valhalla is real. You can't do it. You can't. You can poison yourself with fucking Kroger ground beef all you want. It's not going to make Valhalla real. You have to have it socially reinforced from like birth.
and
It's a different universe.
and like this is my point earlier about like how Eggers portrays the past like a science fiction reality, and what I think the strengths of his movies, contra this Guardian article, and what I think people are losing the ability to do in like with adult serious works of art, is that Eggers presents these characters but like makes no effort to moralize about their behavior. Because like, yeah, Alexander Skarsgård is the hero of this movie, but like in one of the first half an hour or so of the movie, you see him massacre a village of people and like sell them into slavery. And at no point does he question like, oh, is this wrong, or feel bad about it? No, because like this is the values of the world he inhabits. And the movie, like, I mean, like it doesn't give the viewer like any touchstone for like what is, how should I feel about this? I mean, well, it's obvious how you should feel about it. It's wrong to massacre and enslave people, but that's not what the movie's about. The movie is about people who thought that was a normal way of life.
I will say though that there is a element of truth to all of these anxiety articles and posts about movies being such and such movie or such and such director being fash or whatever, and that is that movies are kind of inherently reactionary. Like it's a popular art form where you are subjected to like a totalizing artistic vision, and it's totally aesthetic. I mean, you're just watching it, and the stuff that is fun to watch is the surrender of all of your precious ideas of liberal humanity that people are trying to so fretfully tend to nowadays, and that's why there's this like note of desperation and hysteria behind this desire to create virtuous entertainment that is always going to be sending good messages so that people can behave well, and why so many people are literally fleeing to turn everything into children's entertainment. They want every book to be YA, they want every movie to be some Pixar, because conveying like adult reality is it's literal violence.
Yeah, I mean the world is filled with literal violence, and the art we seek to reflect that world will often contain the nastier elements of the reality we all inhabit. But I want to go back to his comparison of Sarsgaard's character to the QAnon shaman. I mean, like, that's the most offensive thing about this, because like I did not make that connection in my head until I read this fucking article. And anyone who would make that connection, it's like, no, Sarsgaard, when he's wearing the wolf pelt and going berserker mode, looks cool as hell. The QAnon shaman has never looked cool. I mean, like, he's got a good physique, but like, come on, like the face paint, like this is dork. This is
He was
dork
wearing
shit.
khakis.
Yeah.
He had fucking Dockers on.
Continuing with the article, it says here, Eggers would doubtless be horrified to be associated with such movements, but the Northman illustrates how cinema can be misappropriated in ways the makers never intended. In the
Yeah,
past,
of course. So what?
I thought
If
this
that's
is like
the
the
case,
whole
you either
canon of
none of it
postmodern
matters and you
criticism.
just watch a movie and chillax, or then we have to go Pol Pot mode and have no movies for anybody.
Yeah,
In the
no,
past,
they're like probably schizophrenics who watch Teletubbies and think it's giving them messages to kill their parents.